Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. On my podcast, I like to talk about the NBA, high school, college, and international basketball, and the topics that I go over week in and week out. The first being a topic I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's just my power rankings. Understand that my list is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. Another segment that I go over is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news that happened this last week. It could be some type of NBA history that was made this last week, or it could just be me straight up ranting. Another segment that I go over is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about a game that I really enjoyed watching, or it could be a game of some type of significance, or it could be games that I am looking forward to watching later on in the week. And then the last segment I go over is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, or I'm talking about high school, college, or international basketball. Today's episode, we're not going to do anything for In the Lab. I didn't get to fully watch some of the footage and some of the games that I had saved for me to watch. So next week on In the Lab, we'll actually be checking in on some of our high school players. I haven't done that yet this season, so we're going to go ahead and check in on some of our high school players. I know last week I told you guys we were going to do international, but we've already done international. So we're going to check on some of the high school players next week, okay? And just so you guys know, this is being recorded December 24th. 2025 at about 1 p.m., okay? My first segment is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, in PJ's Echelon, it's my power rankings. Understand that this is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. And the parameters that I like to use when I'm giving my power rankings, one being the eye test, another being the strength of schedule, another being the team statistically where they sit, and then also the team's record, okay? Let's dive straight into it. Again, this is being recorded on Christmas Eve, 2025 at about 1 p.m. So anything that happens later today, there's no games today, or tomorrow, and the rest of the week won't be featured in on this episode. All right, my number one team may or may not surprise you guys, shouldn't surprise you guys. It is still the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they got a 26-4 record. They are 6th in offensive rating. They're 1st in defensive rating, and they're 1st in net rating. So they're 0-3 when playing the second night of a back-to-back on the road, which I don't think is really that big of a deal because in the playoffs, you're not going to play no back-to-backs. They do have the toughest remaining schedule left. They got 3 games against the Spurs, 4 against Denver, and 2 with Minnesota. I still believe this is the best team in the NBA. I know, obviously, they've lost to the Spurs twice this month. They also lost to Minnesota. I'm still not worried about Oklahoma. Number 2, this team is 17-6, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 1st in offensive rating, 17th in defensive rating, and they're 2nd in net rating. So Cam Johnson's going to be out for a while with a bone bruise. I guess nothing's fractured, nothing's broken, so that's really good news for them. They did lose to Houston for the second time. They lost to Houston the second time they played in the week, which is totally fine to me. They beat them earlier in the week. It's hard to beat a team twice in the same week, so I'm not holding that over Denver's head. To me, I'm going to keep them here for at least one more week because I really want to see how they handle Christmas Day. And then over the weekend, they play Orlando, and then they play Miami. So I kind of just want to see how they handle being in South Beach over the weekend. Number 3. This team is 24-6, and that is the Detroit Pistons. Detroit right now, they're 8th in offensive rating, they're 2nd in defensive rating, and they're 5th in net rating. They're 15-5 in clutch time games, and they're shooting splits during that time in the game. They're shooting 45.5% from the field, 26.5% from 3, and 78% from the free throw line. They're 10-0 when Jalen Duren scores 20 or more points in a game. They allow the fewest assists. They allow the fewest assists in the NBA at 23, and they allow the second lowest field goal percentage in the NBA at 44%, but they are 25th in three-point percentage, and I think that's something that needs to eventually rise if they plan on going super deep in the playoffs. Number 4, this team is 22-7, and that is the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio right now, they're 5th in offensive rating, they're 6th in defensive rating, and they're 7th in net rating. They're on a 7-game winning streak, which is the longest winning streak they've had since the 2018-2019 season. They're 12-3 in clutch time games, and during those during that period in the game, they're shooting 48.5% from the field. They're shooting 43% from three and 77.5% from the free throw line. They're fifth in transition frequency at 20%. They average the sixth most points out of the transition at 27 points. They're 8-7 against teams above 500, and they have the fourth toughest remaining schedule. That's San Antonio at number 4 for me. Number 5. This team is 20-9, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're second in offensive rating, 13th in defensive rating, and they're 4th in net rating. They're 9-7 against teams above 500. They got the 7th easiest remaining schedule. They got 3 games still against Detroit, which will be interesting to watch. They're last in cut frequency in the NBA. The players really do not cut that much in this offense at about 4%. And cutting, and to me, like when you're able to cut, usually cutting leads to open shots or easier baskets. So, New York, I think, could really add some more cutting into their offensive schemes. But it's still working. Don't get me wrong. They're second in offensive rating. So, obviously, they're doing something right. They are second in spot-up shots frequency at 30%. They're second in points out of shooting out of the spot-up at 37 points a game. And they're second in attempts out of spot-ups at 31 a game. New York is just a high-powered offense. Their defense have kind of slipped since the last time I did my ratings. Last time I did it, they were 10th in defensive rating. So we'll see if they can get back up to the top 10 by next week, hopefully. Number 6, this team is 17-10, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston, right now, they're 3rd in offensive rating. They're 10th in defensive rating, and they're 3rd in net rating. So they have had some pretty bad losses this month. That's why they've kind of slightly slipped. I mean, I probably could have dropped them lower because some of the teams under them have been a little bit more hot than they are. But I still heavily believe into this team. I still really believe in this team. Something that I'm pretty sure I highlighted to you guys a while back was I was interested to see how Houston would handle in the clutch having Kevin Durant and what that would look like. I think they're still trying to figure that out because right now they're 1-4 in games that are decided by 3 points or less, and they're 6-8 in clutch time games. So again, I think they're still just trying to figure out what that looks like in the clutch and what lineups they want to go with and who they want to run the offense through. They do have the 9th easiest remaining schedule. The defense has slipped a little bit, and I'm interested to see how much Tari Eason being back in the lineup will assist their defense. I mean, he's a very, very good defender, so it should help, but we'll see. Okay, number 7, this team is 15-9, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're 4th in offensive rating, 15th in defensive rating, and 6th in net rating. So they got 16 games coming up in the month of January, which I hinted to you guys a couple weeks back. So that's something for sure I'm going to be paying heavy attention to because that's a lot of games. And Boston really can't afford to lose any players, truth be told. They do got the 4th easiest remaining schedule. They're 8-8 in clutch time games. They're first in field goal percentage during the clutch at 51.5%. They're first in three-point percentage also during the clutch at 50%. They're 4-3 in games decided by 3 points, which I think that's still impressive for the makeup of this team, for them to be that efficient in the clutch, even though the record is 8-8, for them to be able to score at the clip and at that efficiency. I think that's a nod to Mazzulla, but also to Jaylen Brown and company. They're 30th in free throw attempts at 19 a game, but they're still 4th in offensive rating. Number 8, this team is 20-10, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota right now, they're 10th in offensive rating. They're 5th in defensive rating. They're 8th in net rating. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're on a 3-game winning streak. 15-2 against teams below 500. They do have the 12th toughest remaining schedule. They're 6th in free throw attempts, and they're 26th in free throw percentage, which could come back and bite them in the playoffs at 76%. They're 5th in off-ball screens, and they're 6th in points coming off-ball screens. They're having about 5 points a game out of that. Number 9, this team is 19-9, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 6th in offensive rating. They're 21st in defensive rating. They're 13th in net rating. They are 5-0 in three-point games. They're 10-0 in clutch time games. They average the 5th best field goal percentage during the clutch at 49%. They're 12-5 on the road. They have the 15th toughest remaining schedule. They still got to play OKC and Denver 3 times. They play Detroit, the Spurs, and the Knicks still twice. Number 10. This team is 17-13, and that is the Orlando Magic. Orlando right now, they're 11th in offensive rating. They're 8th in defensive rating. They're 11th in net rating. So Truth be told, Orlando's kind of here by default for me. Some of the other teams I was considering, like Cleveland, Toronto, and the Warriors, I just feel like I could keep Orlando here for one more week just so I can kind of better decide if I want to move any of those other teams up. I mean, Cleveland has somewhat been underwhelming this year for me. But anyways, I kept them here for one more week by default, kind of. They have the second easiest remaining schedule. They get the Pacers and the Wizards 3 times. They get Brooklyn and Sacramento twice. And they have one of the more tougher schedules to begin the season. They're 9-10 against teams above 500, so they should be racking in some wins here pretty soon. Okay, so that is my top 10. And then my teams on the bubble, I kind of just hinted to you guys. I have the Cavs, Toronto, and the Golden State Warriors. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10 and who do you have on your bubble. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news or some type of NBA historical history that was made over this last week, or it could just be me ranting. Today, I'm going to give you guys some news and some history that was made. I'm going to try and go through this as fast as possible, because it is a lot. So just bear with me, okay? Let's just dive straight into it. So Diabate of the Charlotte Hornets, he had against the Wizards, this was yesterday, he had 12 points and 18 rebounds on 6 of 6 shooting from the field. So franchise history was made. That was the most rebounds in a game without missing a shot in franchise history. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. Another that happened yesterday was Santi Aldama versus Utah. He had 37 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 7 made threes, which was a career high. He joined Mike Conley as the only players in franchise history with those numbers in a single game. That also happened yesterday. Another, we're going to go to college. AJ DeBonsa of BYU is the only Division I or NBA player in the last 30 seasons to have a calendar month minimum of 5 games with 25-plus points per game, 5-plus rebounds per game, 5-plus assists per game, shooting 65+% from the field and going undefeated, which I thought was interesting. And then another record, he also broke a couple other records. So he ended up having the most points in a triple-double in Big 12 history. Last one he did was he became the first Division I player in the last 30 years with a 30-point triple-double and 80% shooting. I mean, AJ, he had an amazing game. I mean, competition, wasn't that good, but still impressive. Very impressive what he did. Josh Giddey joins Michael Jordan as the only Bulls players in history to record 15-plus points, 15-plus assists, and 10-plus rebounds in multiple regular season games. He did that against the Hawks yesterday. Another one, shout out to Cooper Flagg, teenagers to record at least 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists in a single game was Luka, and Cooper Flagg did that yesterday against Denver. Another thing that was kind of been brought up is that Shams reported that the NBA is looking into ways to prevent teams from tanking. Some of the proposed ideas include limiting pick protections to either top 4 or 14 and higher, not allowing a team to draft in the top 4 in consecutive years, locking the lottery position after March 1st. I mean, that could really shake some things up. I mean, if they ended up doing all 3 of those, that could really... We'll have to dive into that if they end up doing that. We'll have to talk more extensively about that. Another thing that's been pretty consistent is Shea recorded his 100th straight 20-point game. He joins Wilt Chamberlain as the second player to ever do so. He did that back on the 22nd of December. I think Shea has a chance to break that record this year, if I remember correctly. I think Wilt's record, is like 145 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I feel like I've talked about this on here. I just can't remember what. Another thing that's coming up, which I think is going to be interesting and funny, is Snoop Dogg is expected to call the second half of the Clippers versus the Warriors game on January 5th. And then some NBA, kind of some positive things for the league is that more than 87 million people in the U.S. have watched NBA games this season across NBC, Peacock, ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and NBA TV. That's the most viewers in the last 15 years. And it's up 89% year over year, which shout out to the NBA. I think people are really enjoying the content on some of the other platforms. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of us were mad that the NBA was deciding to break it down like this, being so scattered. But I think it's paid off. It's paid really good dividends for them. So got to shout out to the front office for coming out with that. Got to give some love to KD. KD, he moved into 10th on the all-time field goals made list. And this happened on the 21st of December. He had 10,000. 750 made field goals. He's now the third fastest player in NBA history also to reach 30,000 plus points, 5K plus rebounds, and 5K plus assists. Who's done it faster was Michael Jordan, did it in 960 games. LeBron did it in 1,107 games. And KD just did it in 1,147 games. So shout out to KD. The Hornets rookie, my boy Conka Nipple, he buried his 103 of the season in just 29 career games, 12 game faster than the next closest person in history. The previous record holder was Lauri Markkanen. Khan did this back on the 22nd of December. LeBron passed Michael Jordan for the most 35-point games after turning 40. LeBron did that on the 20th of December. And then Luka joins Elgin Baylor as the only players in Laker history with a 45-point game triple-double. That was on the 18th of December. You guys let me know down in the comment section below, what news did you guys come across? The last segment that I'm going to talk about today is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about games of some type of significance or games that I just really enjoyed watching. It could be college or it could be pro. Today, we're going to talk about some college games. The first being, it was number 3 Duke versus number 19 Texas Tech. Unfortunately, Texas Tech won the game. They won by 1. I'm a Duke fan, so that's why I sound the way I sound about it. It really made me mad, too, because most of the game, I felt like Duke had pretty good control of the game. I feel like they let Christian Anderson get blazing hot. I think the last like 5-6 minutes of the game, I'm pretty sure, I think he accounted for like 13 of the team's final like 19 points in the last like 5-6 minutes. But he got hot. I think he hit like 3 or 4 threes in that span. I think he hit 3 threes in that span, but they were like, every time he hit one, it just felt like a dagger, right? Like it just felt like it was just hitting me, even though they were down. But they came back, they raced back, they won the game. Like I said, Christian Anderson, he got hot on the season. He's shooting 43.5% from 3. And I've talked about him quite a bit on here to you guys. I started talking about him last summer in 2024 at the FIBA when I seen him playing in the FIBA tournament for Germany. I seen him playing, and I really liked his game then. He's taking his game to another. He's a pro. I think Christian Anderson is for sure a pro. I thought he was a pro even then. Even last year when I seen him playing in the FIBA tournament, I thought he was a pro. But then he had a teammate, LaJuan Watts. I didn't even know who that was. He was killing it too. Him. And then even like spottingly, because JT was in foul trouble a good chunk of the game, but LaJuan Watts kept him in the game. I didn't know who he was, but he kept him in the game. And then Anderson got hot towards the end, and JT gave his little bit towards the end. And this is exactly why I couldn't put Duke in my championship bubble in my preseason, when I gave you guys my preseason picks to win the national title, and even the most updated one I gave you guys. I didn't have my Duke Blue Devils in it. And that's because I feel like our guard play is not elite enough. Like Caleb Foster, he's very up and down. He's not consistent at all offensively. He's a solid defender, but offensively, he's too up and down, not a really good passer, not a good decision maker. Isaiah Evans can't do anything but shoot the ball. He barely can dribble, can't attack the rim, is not that good of a defender. Yeah, our backcourt is just not good. We have a very solid front court with Patrick and Cam, like very solid there. And I do like, what's his name, Minya? I think his name is Minya. I like him too. But this is why I couldn't put Duke there, because they can't stop the bleeding. Couldn't stop the bleeding. And our guards, we don't have any guards that can really take over the game. So, yeah, it was kind of a disappointing loss to me, but it's all good. We needed to lose so we can learn and progress through it. So it's all good. Another game I want to talk to you guys about is number 8 Houston versus number 14 Arkansas. I'll keep the highlights up in the corner for you guys. You can watch the highlights of Kingston Flemings and of Darius Aguff. I'll put that up in the corner for you guys. Houston won this game, and it really wasn't that close of a game for most of it at all. Houston pretty much killed them all game. They ended up winning this game 94-85. A player that I didn't know of, I want to talk about him first, and then we'll talk about the two main guys, is Malik Ewan. I had no idea who he was. He was a man amongst boys. I mean, he was bullying them down there. Also, I think it also gave him that kind of free will to do that, because Houston's big men were in foul trouble most of the game. But he finished with 20 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks. He took 17 free throw attempts. 17 free throw attempts in a college basketball game it's rare. It's not likely, but I had to give him a shout out. But now we can talk about the main guys. Okay, let's talk about Darius Aguff Jr., 6'3" point guard. He had 27 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. He shot 60% from the field, 33% from 3, and 73% from the free throw line. Darius, since his game against Louisville on the 3rd of December, he's my number 1 point guard on my big board now. To me, he's the closest thing to a pure point guard that's coming out. I'm old school, so I kind of watch the game like on some like traditional positions. I know a lot of you guys will say like positionless basketball and a guard's a guard, a big, a forward's a forward. But I try to, at least for me, when I watch the game, I like to keep it structured. Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. That's how I just view the game, and I'm not changing that for anybody. But to me, Darius is the closest thing to a pure point guard. Outside of Braden Smith of Purdue, he's a real true point guard, but he's just too little. Braden Smith is like 5'10". But yeah, so Darius was dominant all game. I thought it was really fun watching Darius and Kingston guard each other. But yeah, Darius is my number 1 point guard on my big board right now. Passing out of the pick and roll, the pace that he plays at. He knows when to pick his spots when it's time for him to score. And yeah, like I told you guys, to me, he reminds me of post-double surgery Derrick Rose. That's when I watch him, that's what I see. Does not have the athleticism. Like I said, that's why I said post the surgeries of Derrick Rose. That's what I see. I like Darius Aguff a lot. He's my number 1 point guard today. But we'll see. Maybe it'll change as we go into conference play. But today, he's my number 1 point guard. Let's talk about his opponent, which was Kingston Fleming, 6'4", point guard / shooting guard. He had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 turnover, 3 steals. He shot 47% from the field. He was 0 for 2 from the three-point line. He shot 87.5% from the free throw line on 8 attempts during this game. Like I said, I love that he guarded Aguff most of this game. I give him credit for that because in today's, even in the pros, you don't really see that happen where the top players on each side are guarding each other. So it was like literally most of the game he was guarding them. Kingston was my number 1 point guard at the end of November when we last discussed him. But now, like I said, he's not my number 1 anymore. It's Darius now for sure. But yeah, so I really enjoyed watching him play. I think he's still, for me, he's a top 4 point guard on my big board, probably top 3. I just enjoy watching him play. He's so smooth. That's why I put point guard / shooting guard, because to me, he's more of a shooting guard. But at the NBA level, they probably will play him as a point guard because, every position is just getting bigger at the next level. So he will probably be sliding in as a point guard, which I'm fine with. But I like him as a shooting guard. He's just so smooth. He's just a smooth scorer to me. He just seems like a natural scorer to me, and I love the elevation he gets on his jump shot. So on one other game, I want to give a couple other players some shout-outs and some other games that happened. One being Ohio State at number 12, North Carolina. Caleb Wilson impressed again, had 20 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. UNC won the game 71-70. Caleb, to me, and I haven't come on here to tell you guys yet who he plays like, in my opinion, and you guys may or may not disagree. I'm not here to listen to your opinion on why you disagree with me. But in my opinion, when I'm watching him play, he does remind me of Giannis Antetokounmpo. He reminds me of Giannis. He does. The intensity he plays with, the relentlessness of attacking the basket he plays with. He reminds me of Giannis. Do I think he's going to have a Giannis career? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put that pressure on him. Obviously, situation where he gets drafted is going to matter a lot. But he reminds me of Giannis. He really does. He plays like Giannis, in my opinion. I just would love to see them run the offense more through him because I want to see what kind of playmaking does he have in his arsenal. Another game is number 21 Auburn at number 6 Purdue. Braden Smith, I just talked about him. He had 14 assists. Purdue killed them. They won 88-60. Like I said, Braden Smith was taller. If Braden Smith was even 6 foot, 6'1", he would for sure be getting love on the draft board. But he's just such a little guy, So let's talk about some games that are coming up. Obviously, we got our Christmas Day NBA games. There's no college games really until after the New Year. So NBA games, Christmas game. We got Cavs at the Knicks. That game. I don't know who I got winning that game. Let me think. Cavs at the Knicks. Cleveland, man. Cleveland got to do something, man. Cleveland got to do something. I got the Knicks winning the game, though. Spurs at OKC. OKC, they can't afford to lose to the Spurs 3 times in a row. I got OKC in that game. Dallas at the Warriors. Give me Steph on Christmas? Yeesh. Give me Dallas. I'm going to take Dallas in Golden State. Rockets at the Lakers. Give me the Rockets. Timberwolves at Denver. Give me Denver. And that's all I got for you guys this week. Again, next week, we'll check in on some of our high school prospects. And then in what's new, I may or may not rant. We'll see how I'm feeling. All right. You guys have a good and happy holidays, okay?